The jaw-dropping record of BTS continues. BTS Butter, of course, topped the Billboard Hot 100 chart for 7 weeks in a row. And then the song, of course, in collaboration with Ed Sheeran, Permission to Dance, topping and debuting at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 earlier today as well. Now, it remains to be seen how much longer Butter and Permission to Dance craze will last. But today, we're going to be talking about the meaning and the significance of BTS's long-term dominance on the Billboard chart, not to mention just on a global scale as well. We'll also talk about the future prospects of the group. Today, joining us in our very special interview is music critic and, from what I understand, beloved by the ARMY, Kim Young-dae, joining us in the studio. Welcome to the studio. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good evening, SJ.
All right, so we're very excited. I know a lot of our listeners, big fans of K-pop, but also BTS as well. We got so many questions to ask. I am watching and reading some of the messages from our listeners on our live YouTube streaming. If you have any questions to our special music critic joining us in the studio, do ask and I'll relay those questions for you. But again, going into some of these news, Butter, great song. We just heard the intro there produced that was made by our producer here. Topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 weeks in a row. And then you have their new song, Permission to Dance, debuting at number 1 earlier today. This is a dumb question, but did you expect this to happen?
Well, I actually called it.
Yeah.
I called it several weeks ago at the other program. And also Suga of BTS called it too. Almost kind of same day, simultaneously. Right. But, I kind of hoped... because I'm not a fortune teller,
right.
But I definitely see this kind of trend because, Butter had its moment, but we all knew, including ARMY, they all knew that new songs coming up. So I think especially the downloading part, the downloading and
right.
Purchasing the MP3 and streaming thing could be like moving toward the new song, even though they are still enjoying
right.
Butter. So it was kind of tricky situation because the mainstream radio, they're still playing Butter because the Butter is more, I think, radio-friendly song.
Yeah.
But the new song's coming. So, it definitely a moment that maybe, PTD, the new song, might not top the chart because of that kind of like split.
Right.
Yeah, so it was hard to tell, but I called it. So the thing is, Butter could have been 9 or 10 weeks if it's not Permission to Dance. So I'm not sure whether this is a good situation or bad situation.
No, I mean, it's definitely good.
But a historic achievement. Too.
Definitely. And again, I thought that the only song that could, the only artist that could actually dethrone BTS and Butter was going to be BTS and their new song. I'm not a music critic, I'm not a music expert, but just looking at the trends of how big BTS has gotten, we knew that Permission to Dance was going to be, I didn't really call it officially, but I knew it was going to happen. But when Butter debuted at number 1 and when Butter did so well, were you surprised about that or did you call that too before?
Well, I called 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
Minimum. Okay. Minimum. So it was fulfilled eventually.
Because it went
but
7.
Butter, for me, many people compare Butter to Dynamite. But for me, for the mainstream realm in the US, I think Butter is more radio-friendly and more mature in terms of like image and the sound. It brings so much... similar vibe as Janet Jackson and the Human League back in the 80s and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, that kind of like 80s vibe. So
right.
I think it would really fit the taste of mainstream audience in the US, and it definitely made sense. So I definitely thought Butter could be a smash hit, but I didn't really know that it could last 7, possibly 8 weeks.
Because you said 5.
Yeah.
You said 5, but it went 7. But again,
I didn't say just 5.
At least 5.
Well, kind of.
And you are right. At least 5. 7 is certainly at least 5. But Young-dae, what does this record mean for everyone out there, though?
Well, a lot of numbers. Like there are a lot of first.
Yeah.
Right. So first since Drake several years ago. So this is actually the 14th occasion.
Yeah.
Where it's they call it self replacement. So they kind of top the chart. Instead of their previous hits.
Right.
So this is actually officially 14th case. So it includes a lot of like great artists like the Beatles, Taylor Swift, Boyz II Men back in the days, and also Drake. So, well, 14th definitely a great number. But broader picture, this is Asian group we're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is Korean group. They're not really supported, like hugely supported by American media because they're not American and their primary language. Well, in this case, this is a song written and sung in English for
Right.
American audience. But in general, they are not really like American targeted specifically artists. So yeah, this is amazing. The Hot 100. This era has been lasting 63 years.
Yeah.
And this is only the 14K.
Exactly. I mean, this is really incredible, and I'm still trying to get a grasp of how big this is because it's just, hard to process, right? Because the scale of it is so big right now. But Permission to Dance also hitting a record-breaking number of music video views.
Right.
You see this all the time with a lot of their BTS music videos. But the thing is, it contains various messages within the music video and caused some headlines as well. From what I understand, the message that the music video is trying to perceive here is in regards to the era of COVID-19 that we're currently at right now. So can you kind of tell us what message Permission to Dance is trying to give and also how?
Yeah, I mean the title "Permission to Dance" is a kind of funny title because it actually tells the opposite meaning, right? You don't need a permission.
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think the message overall is very straightforward. You don't have to worry. I think they definitely talking about this pandemic situation or any kind of frustration
Right.
or the struggles we're facing right now. But the message is really simple. You don't need to worry. Just walk the walk and dance together. And because we don't need permission. I think, well, although the message looks very simple, sounds very simple, I think it really sounds profound at the same time. Because during this pandemic, what I feel, probably everybody have been feeling is that we are all same.
Yeah.
We are not really special. Anyone is not really special under this like global like struggles and frustration. So the fact they're saying as an Asian group from Korea that we just have to dance because we don't need any permission to dance. So don't worry. Yeah, it feels really great. I mean, it feels really special because this kind of message, think about it, is usually delivered by who? Like white artists,
Right.
mainstream artists.
Right.
Or
Kanye West.
yeah, Kanye West, but an exception. Okay, it actually brings brings a kind of similar vibe when Michael Jackson, singing "Man in the Mirror" or
Heal the World.
Heal the World, definitely,
Yeah.
1994. 1993, I guess.
Yeah, you know what's just incredible is I do completely agree. One of the things that I think I've understand specifically more on a personal note is all the things that I realize I've taken for granted, before the pandemic. I'm not a dancer, as you can see. I don't look like a dancer. I'm more closer to Psy than BTS here. But even, missing the idea of just dancing. Just being free.
Absolutely.
Just not being able to do a lot of things that we were able to do.
Without mask.
Without mask, exactly. And I think you're right. The message, and you know what, BTS, and that's what they've been known for quite a bit, for a lot of their songs. It has great messages within their songs. But here's the thing, I've been following K-pop for a really, really long time, even when I was in the United States.
What was the first K-pop song you ever heard?
The first K-pop song, it's interesting that you say this because I had this talk with our producer just yesterday. Do you remember Gem?
Yeah. 난 멈추지 않는다.
난 멈추지 않는다.
Yeah.
That was my very first ever love.
Wow, that was kind of ancient history.
That was back in 92.
92, I think.
And interestingly enough, that was the same year that I immigrated to the United States. And that was the first song I ever heard and fell in love with.
Wow.
Not the first group that I ever fell in love with. Baby Vox was my first love.
Well, that was when we don't even have a word like K-pop or something.
No,
like that.
there was no such thing as K-pop.
We called it Kayo.
Right, exactly.
Right?
The Kayo Top 10 and all those shows that we're so used to watching back in the days. But speaking of groups that I was a big fan of, Wonder Girls was another group that I was a fan of in college. And, there were a lot of groups that tried to make it into the U.S. market. Wonder Girls being one of them. Remember, Seven tried to make it into the U.S. market as well, but it wasn't successful. Let's put it at that. But now we're seeing BTS, the craze that they're going. What makes BTS different from some of the other K-pop groups, and how are they able to attract the U.S. and also other global markets, do you think?
Well, I think it's really complicated. There's a kind of fundamental, like musical, like difference, but there's also a kind of situational difference. So something like, Baby Vox, other like previous K-pop groups like Wonder Girls and SNSD, they didn't really have this kind of like platform. They have YouTube, but it was not as popular as it right now. So BTS definitely had that kind of advantage, in terms of like disseminating their music. But that is not really a fundamental difference because we all have different platform right now. But it's only BTS who made this kind of level of success. I think, you can say, if you're a K-pop fan, you can definitely, tell the similarity, tell the difference. But it could be subtle, but it could be really huge. I mean, let me put it this way. Back in the 2012, when Psy Gangnam Style made an amazing like historic hit, there's been a discussion surrounding K-pop, mostly by Westerners. They talk about they newly discovered this K-pop phenomenon, and they started to talk about it by saying, this is good and this looks fun and interesting, but they're not really organic, and they're not really musically mature. So for them, their K-pop at the time was no more than kind of factory kind of idol industry, rather than more artistic or musical act. But now BTS actually has been changing that kind of narrative and that kind of attitude of media, because not only their music is produced organically by BTS and professional together, their messages and attitude are definitely displaying, representing their identity as human beings as well.
Right.
So they're not talking about more blending kind of topic like, love is good topic, but they're not talking about it casually.
Yeah.
They'll talk about it more, in philosophical way or aesthetic way, but at core, they talk about themselves through this kind of different topic and a different type of concepts. So I think that's the really main difference. The message, the sincerity and authenticity. I think authenticity is kind of overused term, but I think it's the really adequate term to describe the musicality of BTS.
Yeah, I think that the big joke back in the days was when you talk about K-pop songs, everyone just talks about love or breakups and how I miss him or her. And how, it's the same message. That was the big joke. But you're right, with BTS and their songs, their message to the audience is so diverse. There's also some hidden messages that people don't know about. For instance, one of my favorite songs from BTS is 봄날, Spring Day. And there's actually a very profound message within that song as well. And I think that's what makes BTS, again, so special. And which is why they have such a huge fan base. And we need to talk about BTS's fandom army.
Yeah.
Our writers and me were talking about fans back in the days, and I was talking about how I was waving pink balloons.
Yeah.
Our writer, white balloon for HOT and different colors and so forth. But ARMY's different. This is on a global scale right now. How do they compare to previous fandoms in the past?
Well, much diverse.
Yeah.
Different generation. Whenever I visited one of the BTS concerts in US, I see a lot of cases that actually, mom or grandma brought their children.
Yeah.
as an army.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite odd situation for me at the time. But now I kind of understand it because it's funny you mentioned 봄날 and other song having that kind of nostalgic feeling. It's not really kind of edgy, industrial, modern pop, but it definitely has those kind of like nostalgia feeling that brings different generations together. I think it's a huge fact musically that the reason for having this kind of diverse fandom, at the same time, simultaneously, but also, well, every K-pop fans, they're devoted. But
Right.
ARMY, I think they're in kind of another level that's really devoted and passionate. And that is why they kind of almost forced industry to have attention, from mainstream media and mainstream people.
What's interesting is, again, oftentimes we go to YouTube to watch some of the music videos.
Right.
And I myself, when there's a new music video that BTS is airing, I go in there and, type in, and I look at the comments made by the fans, and you don't see any Korean comments. Everything's in English, or it's in some other language. I don't know what language it is. And just really shows you how far this fandom has spread. But
and you know what? They even going really academic.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of college professors, doctors, graduate students who have this annual like BTS conference in UK, in
Really?
US. Yeah. It's really legit. It's really academic, conference, and that they're talking about the lyrics and the music video, like the whole aesthetic, really deeply in academic level. I think it's never happened before in any like this pop music, not rock or folk or
Right.
hip hop, but pop music. This is a whole different level of interest.
And it's not just any pop, it's K-pop. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if, let's say, in one university or college, there is a major that, studies K-pop or the history of K-pop or, anything regards to this. But speaking of which, with all this right now going on, again, BTS right now, they're more than an artist right now, I think. Where does BTS stand in the current music market?
Well, I think, a lot of industry people, they still kind of consider BTS within their pre-existing category, like boy band.
Right.
But I think it's not really proper term for BTS or K-pop fans currently. Because when you talk about boy band, you have a kind of like a typical, model, like 4 or 5 people singing, well, good, not really excellent. They have some move, but not really like great choreography.
Right.
That's the Western kind of boy band format. But K-pop, they actually revolutionized the format. So they have amazing performer who can rap, dance with really high level. And BTS, step further with a profound message, that can match this aesthetics of visual. So I think they're kind of, within K-pop, BTS actually kind of revolution or evolution of K-pop. But in the US, I think they kind of creating a new model of pop. I think, you cannot just say it's boy band or teen pop or whatever.
Right. It's just, to me, it's remarkable because I grew up in the States. I've listened to, back in the days. New Kids on the Block, even, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC.
Definitely.
Right. And and then you have people listening to BTS all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And not just BTS, like, for example, Big Blackpink is also very big in the United States. But my question now is, they've been topping charts left and right. How much longer do you expect BTS to dominate this prolonged chart, though?
Who knows? But
You're right.
I think it could last for a while.
Yeah.
Because at core, there's the huge, devoted, and multiple diverse fandoms who can support anyway, right? So, and they keep producing really quality music, now even in English. Mm-hmm. So I think the reign can continue for a while. I think the only obstacle is, like everyone knows, military service.
Yeah.
It's tricky things that we talk about. But I think other than that, because if you have a pop star and if you have a next generation pop star, they have to be replaced by others, right? But now BTS, but I don't see any upcoming artists at this point who can actually replace as a number one, like Rolling Stone says, the world's biggest band.
It's too big.
I don't see anyone coming.
Because I think that's one
point.
of the things. For example, the same Big Hit Entertainment back in, I believe now it's Hype, right? Big Hit Entertainment before, they created a new group called TXT, Tomorrow by Together.
They're doing good.
They're doing good, but when they debuted at the height of BTS's craze, and they just couldn't really kind of follow the footsteps of BTS was what a lot of people are saying. And so now everyone was questioning, I mean, can there be an actual group that can be as big as BTS in the future?
I mean, let me put it this way, because back in the 60s, we were talking about British invasion, and the Beatles was one of them. But now, from perspective from now, we don't just say Beatles as a British invasion band, right? They're the one and only, right? And they're probably the greatest. So we should not say that new BTS as a new idol up and coming, but it could be rapper. It could be singer-songwriter. Not now, but maybe 5 years later, maybe 10 years from now. So, I mean, this whole influence of BTS and their legacy is not something you could, discover immediately.
Yeah, and one of the things, it's interesting that you talk about this, because one of the changes that I like is when they do introduction for BTS. Before, they used to introduce BTS as the group from South Korea.
7
BTS,
member.
right, exactly. Now it's just BTS.
Yeah.
Because that's what they are. It's BTS now.
No longer K-pop, no longer from Korea or Asian. They're just BTS.
It's just remarkable out there. And again, I know there's a lot of fans out there of BTS. It was a very interesting talk. I actually want to ask him more questions about, BTS and also the future of K-pop as well. But unfortunately, we are out of time. Young-dae, I do thank you very much. I know you've been very busy, especially with the success of BTS recently. But we really do hope you'll be joining us in our program once again in the future. And
Anytime.
thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Stay safe. You can listen to Korea Now with me, SJ Lee, by downloading the Arirang Radio application, or tune in online by visiting www.arirangradio.com. So make sure you tune in Mondays through Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Korea time.